Today we're going to be talking about a watch that you've probably seen in every single video. It's the OMEGA Seamaster 300 meters, and it's time I tell you why. Could I get a large cappuccino, please? So today we are in Edinburgh. It's actually my day off today and we're grabbing a coffee as we speak. And one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is something a little bit more personal to me. Is a watch that I wear every day. You would have seen it in pretty much every single time in the rest, and there's a personal story behind it. So let's get into it. I remember when I was younger, I must have been about, I'd say 15 or 16, and I saw Casino Royale, the James Bond Casino Royale. And I remember the scene where they're on the train and she asks, which Rolex do you have on? And he says, Omega, in the, James Bond way. And it's not that I wanted to become James Bond, I didn't want to become a super spy, but it's the fact that this watch was capable of so much. So let's dive into the functionality of this watch before we go into why it was perfect for me. It comes in stainless steel. Now, I love stainless steel and I love the way the stainless steel plays with that white dial, and we'll get onto the dial a little bit later. It's cold to touch and I love putting it on in the morning. It feels quality. It comes in 42 millimeters in diameter, which is pretty perfect for my slightly slimmer wrists. They're not extremely skinny, but they're a bit more skinny. They come in at about 6.5 inches. And diving more into the 42 millimeters diameter, this is on the larger end of the spectrum for me. I would normally go between 40 and 42 at a push, but one thing about this Omega is the lugs kind of taper off quite quickly in comparison to other divers in the range, which makes it look that little bit smaller and fit that little bit more tightly around the wrist. The thickness comes in at a pretty sturdy 13.7 millimeters, and the lug to lug comes in at about 50 millimeters, so it is quite a thick, sturdy watch, but in comparison to other divers in the industry, it's pretty standard. It has a 20 millimeter lug width, and being an OMEGA Seamaster 300 meter, of course, it has a 300 meter water resistance, which is more than I'll ever go, but the fact that it can do that is pretty incredible. It also has anti-reflect coating on the sapphire crystal glass, which gives it that extra sheen in the light, and watch lovers will notice that. And we're also fresh out of coffee, so let's go for a walk. So we are in Princess Street Gardens at the moment, as you can see by the beautiful autumn colours around me, and we're going to talk a bit about the dial and the design, which is what kind of attracted me to this watch. The dial was a big player. So let's not lie, when it comes to the OMEGA Seamaster, there's probably quite a few dials that will spring up. There's the blue, there's the black, you've got the white, you've also got different colourways and also metal variations, but the one that stood out to me had to be this white dial. Now the thing that struck me about it is it's not kind of pure white, it's kind of metallic-y white, and it sheens really well in the light, which I'm a huge fan of. I'm also a huge fan of that black ceramic bezel. I think it plays wonderfully with that white, and when you put that with the steel case as well, it has a really nice cleanness to it. Another thing that makes this ceramic bezel perfect for me really is the durability aspect. It doesn't scratch as much as steel would, so when I take it out and about, and I've taken this out and about, and it's not got one scratch on it, it is really durable. So let's talk about the dial detail for a second. The indices are filled with superluminova and they're kind of rectangular or circular. Now I really like this because of the symmetry of the watch. It's very symmetrical and aesthetically pleasing. As a photographer, it's brilliant. Moving on to those skeletonized hands, and I know that they're either a love or hate in the watch industry. I've had a lot of people saying that they don't like them, and I've had a lot of people saying that they do like them. Personally, I really like them. It makes the dial, again, that little bit cleaner, a little bit more aesthetically appealing, and you can see the detail below the hands. So although it's over the OMEGA logo at the moment, you can see through it to the OMEGA logo. I know that's a little detail, but it means a lot to me. So we are just moving to a different part of the park because it's absolutely beautiful autumn's day here in Scotland. A bit cold, mind. But let's go back to the symmetry aspect of this OMEGA. It has the date window at 6 o'clock, and I'm a really big fan of this. It gives it that kind of symmetry that you're after, and as a photographer, I'm always looking for the lines and things. Look at the colours on these trees. Isn't that beautiful? And now we get on to the red detailing. The Seamaster, the word Seamaster is actually red on the dial, as well as the tip of the second hand, and that's a really nice splash of colour. It's giving it that little little peppering, that little sprinkle of salt without being overbearing. And aside from that, you have a really nice depth on the dial. You can probably hear, by the way, the train just going past right outside. But you have a really nice depth in the dial because you have that wave, the laser etched waves. And I'm a huge fan of this. One thing that I do get attracted to when I look at watches is something that little bit different. And who else has waves running through the dial? I can't think of any. So when I was looking for this watch, or not this specific watch, but looking for a diving watch in general, I actually had a watch at home. I had a Grand Seiko, and it's more of a dressy Grand Seiko. It's an American exclusive. I'll show you that in a video that's coming up, but I don't want to spoil too much. And what I loved about that Grand Seiko was the dial design, the depth on the dial. Depending on the light you were in, it changed design. And when I then moved over to the Omega and started viewing the Omegas in the Chisholm Hunter store, which is up there, I could see the same similarities. I could see the changes in light. I could see the reflections going through the wave design on this. So it's almost combining a dressy watch's dial with a sports watch. This specific Omega model comes in at just over £4,000. Now, when you go into a watch purchase with that much money, you have high expectations. It's no wonder it's a lot of money. But this movement definitely lived up to my expectations personally. It's actually COSC and METAS certified. It has the master chronometer at 8,800. And let's go into a bit more detail on that movement because it's really beautiful. So this movement beats 25,200 VPH, and it also has 35 joules. Now, for those of you that know movements and know watches, you'll know that the more joules that they have, basically the better the movement is. It has more lubrication and less metal touching metal. So that is a pretty epic movement, and that's a pretty good number of joules. So as I was saying, when this movement is fully wound, it has 55 hours of power reserve, which should be more than you'll ever need. That's literally over 2 days. It's accurate to 0 to +5 seconds a day, which is again pretty impressive. So we have blasted through a lot of the specs about this model, but now we're going to get to why this is the perfect watch. Before we do though, if you didn't know, Chisholm Hunter are actually official authorised retailers for Omega watches. So if you want to see them in person or online, check out chisholmhunter.co.uk. That's chisholmhunter.co.uk. So we had to come inside because, well, it started raining, but you might remember the set behind me. I feel a bit of nostalgia coming back. This is where we started filming Time on the Wrist. So anyway, back to this Omega. So why is this Omega Seamaster 300 meter diver perfect? Well, I think there's a couple of different reasons for this, and most of them are personal, but I'll go into them. So firstly, you have the movement. You're getting a METAS certified movement for £4,000 or just above, and need I say more? It's a METAS certified movement. Secondly, you know, I went for the white dial because I wanted to be bold without being overly flashy. I looked at the black dial and I looked at the white and the blue, of course. It was between the black and the white, and I thought that the white was more fun. It was more quirky. It was more of a statement without being too much. So I went for the white dial. And lastly, is why I got into luxury watch collecting in the first place. I don't buy a watch based on how much it will go up in value. I don't think that's the way that the game should be played. I think it should be based on your feelings toward that watch, and if you really love wearing it and the way it makes you feel when it's on the wrist, and this watch makes me feel pretty good. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is don't listen to what other people say. If you like the watch and you have that connection with that timepiece, then get it. If you like the straps, get them. If you like the hands that are skeletonized that maybe some people like but others don't, but you do, why not? So I would say to get the timepiece that is right for you, and to me, this timepiece is perfect.